Okay. Hello. I would like to show you how I make a first person or third person thumbstick shooter. The first thing we're going to do is open up Unity and create a new project, in which case I will hit new. I'm going to call it thumbstick shooter. And I have a specific location for all my files. And we would like it to be 3D. Create project. The first thing I plan on doing is creating the controls using keyboard and mouse, the WASD key or arrow keys to move around, the mouse key to shoot, and then at the end I will put in controller scripts so that someone can easily plug in a controller and play the same game with like an Xbox controller, or it works just the same if you have a PlayStation controller, I believe, that plugs in USB. With the new scene, I'm going to go to Game Object, 3D Object, and create a plane. This will be for my ground. That way there's something to stand on. And I'd like to start off by giving it a material, because everything we create using Unity is going to start off in white with a white material. So we go to right click, create material, and I'll name it ground matte. And I'm going to click and drag it right onto the plane. The next thing I need is our player, because we're going to start off first thing with the controls for moving our player. So under Game Object, 3D Object, Cube, that'll be the start of our player. Drag him up so that, or you could go over here to the transform and type in 0 to put it, sorry, 0.5 to put it right above here. Generally, the human size is 1 meter, 1 meter, 2 meters for the, I believe, heroic human male. And so I'll change that there. And now this can be 1. And that is our player. We'll give him a new material. And drag it on. Okay, since this is a top-down, I would like to find a nice angle for the player. Maybe do right here. And I'm going to click on the main camera and go to Game Object all the way down to Align with View. And that's going to snap it up here. I also am going to go over here to the rotation and set it to an even 90. Uh, 90, 0. And this I will put under my cube, parent it, and then I will rename the cube to be player. Okay, now we can get to the moving. I'm going to create folder, and I'm going to name this one scripts. Drag it out so that it's not under the materials folder, and I'm going to right click, create C# script. I'll call it player controls, or I'll call this one just player movement to keep it simple, because in this script alone we'll do the left controls, or the left thumbstick, the WASD, the arrow keys. We'll do that just in one script, and then in a different one we'll do the looking, which direction our player will be looking, and that will be the right stick or the mouse controls. Double click on the script to open up Visual Studios or MonoDevelop. Okay, Visual Studios has opened, and I will pull it over from my second monitor to the main one. Okay, there is going to be essentially just one type of movement that I'm going to put on this character, and that's going to be transform.translate, which is moving the character around without any regards to like the rigid bodies or anything like that. You could use rigid body, like add force to move your character around. I like transform.translate. You can also add in build up speeds, lower speeds, and I feel like you just have a good amount of control with it. But let's start with creating a variable. I'm going to call it a private integer. No, I'll call it a private float. Speed. And I'll just end it there. And down in the update, I'm going to write transform.translate vector3 forward times speed. Okay, so right now we've got how fast the player can go. And then moving the player forward. And this should be off of where our player's looking, so if they change where they're looking and we press forward, it'll move them in that direction. Though I suppose we could change it to be with the camera, so moving up is always the up camera But let's see how this goes first. I'm going to change these both to be private, which doesn't change how they work, but it's just easier for note taking. Okay, and now for the control, let's start with W or pressing up. So if input.getKey, which is different than getKeyDown, because getKeyDown means every time you press that button it will do this thing, but getKey is as long as you're holding that button it will do whatever the code is. So input.getKey W, lowercase. And then here, by holding shift and doing the backslash, you can create an OR symbol in C#. So if input.getKey W or input.getKey up. And then brackets. So if we press W or up, then it will move us forward times our speed. And so right now we don't have any speed, because when you do this and you just write speed semicolon, it sets it to 0. So in our start, we'll say speed equals 1.1. And if it's a decimal, you need an F afterwards. 1.1, I think it's float. We have our player, we'll attach the script, and let's hit play and try it out. Cool, that is not the direction I want it to go, but that's a pretty easy way to fix that. I'm going to take the camera out of here, and I'm going to go to the player and change, actually I'm going to add a cube to it, and I'll make it smaller and I'll stretch it out this way so I can tell that this way is forward. Put it under the player. This will probably be the gun eventually, but for now it's just to help us with the direction. So you can see the player is already facing left, and that's not the direction I want. So I will go to the player and change rotation to be 90 to get him to face up. And now when I hit play, I'll attach the camera and it should flow towards the top of the screen. Yes. We can also set it so that no matter what direction our player is looking, it'll be in world space, and I'll just write comments here so that we can check that later. It's almost entirely the same script, but at the end of after speed we'll write comma world space, and that may be a typo, but that's essentially what goes after it. So using this, I will create the forward and backwards direction, and also left and right. I also want to change the speed because I think it's too fast. Right now we'll set it to 0.5. Okay, and instead of rewriting it, I'm going to highlight and copy the code from before, hit enter, paste it, and then change the text. So now this one's going to be down, so if we hit S or the down arrow, then that will change it for us. And here we just change it to a lowercase s and the word down. And here we want it to be backwards. I'm going to get rid of this line comment and change this to vector 3 forward times negative speed to go backwards. And let's check it out. Okay, that's forward, that's backwards, works just like I needed to. Here I'm going to paste again, and I'm going to change this from S to D or right. And here, this will be A or left. And then instead of vector 3 forward, we would do vector 3 right times positive speed to go right, and then vector 3 right times negative speed to go left. And so left and right are working, right, left, forward, backwards. That's perfect. I am going to change, actually, I would like to have speed build up, so that'll be the next part that I add right here. I'm going to create a max speed for how the fastest we can go. And I'll set that to 1.0 f. And then here, in each of these, I'm going to say that if we're pressing a button and our speed isn't already the fastest we can go, then it's going to increase our speed. And I'm actually going to start speed. So speed is going to be 0 at the start every time we start the game. Then if we press W, and then if, another condition, speed is less than max speed, we're going to increase speed. So we'll take speed and we'll plus it. And then here, so that we can have a check to see if we are even moving, because if we don't press down any of these keys, then we don't want it to increase our speed and we don't want to move. So if we're not pressing any of these buttons, we want our speed to go down. So first, after I add this to each of the conditions, I'm going to put an else in front of each of them. So if we press forward, or if we're not pressing forward, if we're pressing down, and if we're not pressing down, if we're pressing right. Actually, before I do this, I'm going to separate these two because you want to be able to press forward and right or left and down at the same time. So I'll do if, else, and I'm going to create a variable for moving forward and moving backwards. So a private bool, which is a true or false, like a light switch, either it's true, yes, the light's on, or it's false, the light's off. I'm going to call this moving vertically. And then I'm going to write another one for horizontal. And here at the beginning of the game, I'm going to set them both to false. Okay? And so if we're pressing these keys, then we're going to add that we are moving vertically. So I'll say moving vert equals true. And I'm going to copy that and paste it down here. And then I'm going to write one last else for vertically, which is if we're not pressing either of those keys, it equals false. And I'm going to do something really similar here. Where if we're pressing left or right, then we are moving horizontally. But if we're not pressing left or right, then that means we're not moving that direction. Okay. And then, now that we have all this that says, like, okay, are we moving forward, are we moving left or right, what do we do about it? So we're going to create one more check that checks if those are both true, because if they're not, then we're going to decrease our speed just the same way that we increased it. So if we're not pressing any move buttons, if moving horizontal equals false, and to check for two things at the same time, we put the and symbol twice. So if we're not moving horizontal and we're not moving vertically, then we're going to take speed and we're going to subtract it. Minus minus. The one thing is that we want to make sure speed isn't below our minimum speed, which is 0 for this project. So I'll create a new variable. And so just the same way we're like, if our speed is less than the fastest we can go, we're going to do something similar where we say if speed is greater than min speed, then we'll change this to minus minus, and we'll get rid of that. Another thing to make sure that we don't go under our speed is to create a statement where we lock it, where we say if it's not higher than it, then it's got to be lower. So if it's lower, then we're setting it to the minimum, which is 0. So if speed is greater than min speed, decrease it. But if it's not, then we're going to say speed equals min speed. Which is just a way of saying speed equals 0. And we'll do that here as well. And I'm going to copy this and repaste it. Okay. And I must have accidentally gotten rid of that. Cool. Now we can try it out. We can see if it works. I'm going to hit play. And it's kind of hard to tell, so I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to change speed plus plus to speed plus equals 0.1 times time dot delta time. We could try that and see if that helps. This might be the same thing. I'm just trying to get it so that the increase is just a little slower so we can tell a little better that our speed is going from 0 to something. And another thing is so that we can see it, I'm going to change this from private to public, and then it's going to show up in Unity right over here. Click on the player, we hit play, our speed starts at 0 and it increases. Cool. And then we're going to watch, so it's 0, I press forward and we got a build up, but it's fast, but it's not too fast. We can then move pretty freely. I think that it's overall a little fast, but to fix that I will just change the numbers. Our max speed I'd like to change to 0.8. Cool, and that is the moving around. The next thing to add is our looking, to get our character to look where our mouse is. I'm going to create a new C# script called player look. I'm going to open that up, reload, and for this one it's going to be a little different. We're going to cast array from our mouse to give us a 3D space. To give us 3D position, so where's our mouse in the 3D world? And let's try creating a variable for our mouse position. And we'll say it equals our camera, our main camera, and it's going to say screen to world. Screen to world point, which is giving it the numbers. So we'll say find where the mouse is in the 3D world, give it 3 digits X, Y, and Z, which we'll say is our input.mouse position. And the order of it goes X, Y, Z, so you do input.mouse position X. Copy it, paste it to be Y, comma, and then paste it to be Z, and I should have written a 3 here. And there is a little bit more post this. So after we put in our 3 variables, we're going to put another comma, and here goes camera.main.transform position. .z minus transform.position.z. We end it, and we do that. We do need to say that we have something for mouse 3, so we're going to create a private vector 3. Cool. And we also did I write something wrong here? Okay, I'm not sure what I wrote wrong, but we have here the mouse position equals the main camera, so the camera that we're using for our vision. We go to the screen, we find the point of our mouse in the 3D world, and then we return numbers, so where it is in the X, the Y, and the Z position. And then the Z position, because we're going to subtract it from our transform position, because we're going to see like the difference between where our character is and where we're looking. And then we're going to add this last piece, which is transform.lookAtMouse position. So we're going to get our character to look in the direction of our mouse. And we're going to take out the Z because we want it to be X and Y, I believe, because we don't want him to look up. Cool. And then I will change these to private. Save it and test it out. Go to our player, add the script on, and let's see if it works. Cool, that's sending a weird issue because our player is attached to our camera, so they're kind of not really working together. Okay, cool. That's not what we want, but it's a start. Let's try the same code, but we'll take out the Y and see if that changes it. Because we want to lock on two variables, but there's one variable we want to leave out. And that is not it, I suppose. Let's try the Z. I mean the X. None of those seem to have changed it. Okay, I'm just going to look up real quick what it is that I'm not doing right. Okay, I found here that someone did something a little different. They have a target, and they have the mouse position, but they handle it a little bit differently. So I'm going to delete this and delete this, and we're going to add, for a variable, we're going to create a target to look at. We'll call it public transform because we're going to look at the numbers of where it is, and we'll call it target for what we'll look at. Then in our update, we're going to create three 3-digit numbers, or vector 3s. One for the mouse position, which equals where our mouse position is. Okay. We're going to create one for our target, but first I want to comment this. The next one, we're going to get the target positions. And this one we're going to set to camera.screen to world point. And we're going to put our mouse position inside. Whoops. Okay, let's leave it at mouse pose for now and just keep going. And the last one is the relative position. So like where we are versus where the camera is. So find where we are versus where our target is. And here comes, after we have all that data, we want to do something with it. So we're going to force rotate our character, which is quaternion rotation. Okay. And let me check. An object reference is required. Okay. Perhaps we'll try putting this up here as a private. And then we'll set it here. Let's see. Okay, I had done the script once before using the joysticks, but I want to have one for the mouse position too. So the way I did it before was I had a shoot direction, which was the 3 digits, and then I take the joystick number of how far. This is for the left. Here it is. Okay. So that part, I'll get rid of the script. Let's see if we can do it with just this. If we tell our game to look where our mouse is, let's see what we get with that. A bug, right? No. Okay. Cool, not what we want, but something. Let's try changing this to right. No, that's not what we want either. I'm going to try adding in the 2 variables x and z because let's see, when we move our character, that is moving on the x, that is moving on the z, and that's what we want from the mouse. But what we don't want is anything from the y. Interesting. Okay. Let's see if there's another solution then. Okay, let's try it using array. Okay. Let's see. Let me first try if this works, and then we can go over it. Cool. We finally found one that works. Totally awesome. Okay, let's go over it then. We don't even need start. We'll just create a private update. Okay, so in our update, we have array that's from the camera to where our mouse position is. It's shooting array to see where it is. Then after that, we're going to create like a plane, I guess, like a flat ground in which our ray's going to stop. And now we have a new variable for distance. And we're going to say if our distance, if it hits outside of our distance, outdistance? I'm not familiar with that. So I'll actually just leave that uncommented. Then we're going to do the following, which is create a target that is our distance, or look at target. We're going to create a variable that's our direction, which is the target minus where we are. Then here we're going to force ourselves to smoothly rotate using the next two scripts. Cool. And then if you have that, you'll notice now our controls are kind of weird because we can still move forward, back, left, right, but it's based on where our mouse is. And if you want that, totally cool. I don't want that, so I'm going to change it to world space on our movement and how we almost had that before. So it should be comma world space, but let me double check it to make sure that I don't have it wrong. On the Unity site, they have it as comma space dot world. That's what it is. Okay, so on each of the move forwards, I'm going to add this, transform. Okay. Awesome, and now I must fix my camera so that it is not facing 90 degrees. The player I'm going to put back at 0. The camera I'm going to put at 0. I think I can attach the camera now. I don't think it's going to give us the issues it was giving before. Nope, it is. Okay. Alright, in that case, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to take our movement script off of the player. I'm going to create a new set where everything is going to be under the player body. We'll create empty. And this will be the player, but we're going to change this to player model. Unparent them. And here we have player, and we're going to put the character model in it. That's the blue guy. We're going to put the camera in it. Cool. We're going to put the gun on the player model. And then we're going to add our move script to the player. There we go. Let's test it out, see if it works. Okay, I can look around, I can move in all the directions. Okay. Next thing to add, some shooting. That would be pretty sweet. For shooting, we're going to want to create something called instantiation, and we will put that on our player. We'll create a new script, and I'm going to call it player shooting.